After getting into college, Lily's husband, an educated youth from the city, wanted to sell his admission spot. In her past life, she had sold her blood to scrape together his tuition and acted as his nanny for 4 years, all so he could study in peace without any worries. Later, he became an esteemed academic and achieved great success, only to murder her entire family after her sister-in-law died in childbirth. Chloe and I came to the countryside together, he had told her. It's all because of you and your brother that we were torn apart. If I had sold my college admission spot back then to buy Chloe's freedom, she wouldn't have had to suffer half a lifetime of hardship with your brother, nor would she have been killed by him. It turned out that both Lily and her brother had given their love to the wrong people. Hey guys, imagine sacrificing everything for a partner, only to be brutally betrayed. Today we'll see how Lily turns back time for an epic comeback. Let's dive in. Upon being reborn, Lily found herself back on the day they were estimating their exam scores. Lily, my estimated score is the highest, David had boasted. I'm planning to apply to the state's top university. They say this admission spot can be sold for a high price. She looked down at her own estimated score, which was 30 points higher than David's. This time, she wasn't going to play his game. Seeing that she remained silent, David glanced at the scratch paper in her hand. He offered a dismissive, patronizing comfort. For a little village girl like you, scoring around 100 points is good enough. Don't overthink it. By the way, did you hear what I just said? Lily nodded calmly. If you want to sell it, then sell it. He hadn't expected her to be so understanding. Overjoyed, he leaned in, trying to kiss her cheek. An admission spot at the top university can sell for a lot of money. When the time comes, I'll go to the general store and buy you some new clothes. She dodged him effortlessly, her expression unreadable. No need. Just pay me back for all the expenses I covered to support your studying and exams. David froze. You want to break up? Is it just because I'm not going to the university, which means you won't get to show off in the village? Lily shook her head, but he quickly recovered from his shock, letting out a cold, arrogant scoff. A village girl is always a village girl. Your vision is so incredibly narrow. Just because I sell my spot this year doesn't mean I won't pass the exam again next year. Fine, let's break up. Lily, don't you dare regret this in the future. Watching his back as he walked briskly away, Lily tore the scratch paper with her estimated score into pieces. In her previous life, she had supported David through his studies, cooking and doing his laundry during the day, and keeping him company late into the night as he studied by lamplight. She had even signed up to take the college entrance exam with him, all to prove that she was worthy of him. After he estimated himself to be in first place, he couldn't wait to blindly fill in his top 3 choices with a top university. Knowing that the university only had one admission quota for their city, Lily had quietly burned her own estimated score, which was 30 points higher than his along with her application. When David suddenly mentioned wanting to sell his admission spot, she had genuinely believed it was because he couldn't bear to let her continue sacrificing her youth for his lofty ambitions. She never imagined that he had only come up with the idea so he could buy back Chloe. Chloe was the educated city girl who had come out to the countryside with him. Unable to endure the harsh physical labor of farming, she had quickly and voluntarily gone on blind dates until she married Lily's brother, Tom. Both Lily and Tom were born and raised farmers, and they possessed a natural longing and admiration for intellectuals. Back in the day, matchmakers had nearly worn out the threshold of their home trying to set Tom up, but he had never relented. Yet, the moment he laid eyes on Chloe, Tom went straight home, dug out the marriage savings he had been building for over a decade, and handed it all to her as a bride price. After they got married, Lily handled all the household chores, and Tom worked out in the fields to earn money. Her sister-in-law's hands never touched a single speck of dust. Years later, however, David kept insisting how much he regretted not saving Chloe from Tom back then, claiming she had been wronged and forced to suffer half a lifetime of misery, only to ultimately be killed by Tom. It wasn't until David was strangling her to death with bloodshot eyes that Lily finally understood the truth. David and Chloe had privately promised themselves to each other long ago. Their respective marriages were merely born of necessity. Lily and Tom were just the naive scapegoats they leached off of. David and Chloe were the true loves all along. In this life, she had no intention of handing her future over on a silver platter. If David wanted to sell his admission spot to save Chloe, that was just fine. She would wait right alongside him for the day the admission letters arrived. The news that David had the highest estimated score quickly spread throughout the entire village. A few days later, he kicked open the door to Lily's family home and grandly threw down a thick stack of cash. "Whatever I owe your family, I'm paying it back right now, principal and interest included. No need to thank me," David added. It seemed he had already made grand promises on the black market, selling his university admission spot ahead of time, without even waiting the 7 days for the acceptance letter to arrive. Lily glanced at the ground. There was about $100 scattered there. When the college entrance exams were reinstated the previous year, David had failed and missed the cut. To let him study in peace for another year, Lily had emptied all her savings and pulled strings to get him a precious, complete set of review materials. As he studied late into the night every day, she would manage to get meat and fish, cooking different dishes to ensure he was well nourished. That was until one time when he noticed she was always wearing long sleeves, even in the summer. When he rolled up her sleeve, he saw her arm covered in dense clusters of needle marks. David had frozen for a long time. With red eyes, he pulled her into a tight embrace. "I can't wait anymore. Marry me, Lily. I promise I'll get into the best university and make the whole village envy you for marrying the right man." After that day, they held a simple wedding banquet. Feeling guilty that he couldn't offer even a single cent for a bride price, let alone traditional luxury wedding gifts, David had made a resolute promise. "The day I get into college next year will be the day Lily and I officially get our marriage license. If I don't get in, I absolutely won't drag her down shamelessly." In her past life, Lily had waited for that day for a very long time. But it turned out that in David's eyes, everything she had sacrificed, principal and interest included, was only worth $100. She wasn't going to hold a grudge against money, especially since she still needed to save up for her own college living expenses. Just as she was about to pick up the cash, Tom came out of the house. Suppressing his anger, he shoved David. "How can you do this to Lily?" But in the next second, her sister-in-law stepped in and shielded David fiercely. Her voice trembled. "Tom, you can beat me to death if you want, but don't you dare touch David." David looked at her with heartache and deep emotion, while Tom stared in utter shock and disbelief. The very next day, Chloe filed for divorce from Tom, clinging tightly to David's arm. It seemed David had sold his admission spot for quite a hefty price. He generously paid back the bride price to buy Chloe her freedom, and then spent lavishly on various outfits and jewelry for her. Soon, gossip spread throughout the village. Some people mocked Lily and Tom for losing everything, and some spat on Chloe for being shameless, but no one said a word against David. After all, he was virtually guaranteed to be a top student at the state university, with a bright future ahead of him. Lily ignored the surrounding chatter and focused solely on packing her bags. Chloe, however, took the initiative to seek her out, wearing a stylish new dress. "You've been by David's side for so long, even selling your blood to support his exams. That couldn't have been easy," Chloe said, "but you served him for a year without an official title. Now, you're just a second-hand good that nobody wants. You'd better be smart and stop hovering around him, or I'll report you for loose morals." Lily laughed. It turned out Chloe was actually worried that, since David had sold his spot and would have to study for another year in the village, Lily might try to win him back. Lily replied coolly, "No matter how expensive that piece of pork is, he's still just a foul, bloated pig. I'm afraid of the stench, so naturally, I won't be hovering around him." Chloe only assumed Lily was saying this out of spite. Smirking, she suddenly raised her hand toward Lily, but instead slapped herself hard across the face. Someone barged past Lily furiously from behind and quickly shielded Chloe. Burying her face in David's chest, Chloe sobbed and covered her cheek. "Over the past year, I've gotten used to Lily and her brother beating and cursing at me whenever things didn't go their way. It's nothing." The veins on David's forehead bulged. Before Lily could react, he kicked her hard, sending her plunging into the river. "An ugly-hearted village girl like you can't even compare to a single hair on Chloe's head," David yelled. "Even if you bled yourself dry for me, I'd still find you disgusting." Lily was sick for 2 days after being rescued from the water. However, after this incident, Tom completely gave up on Chloe. As the time when the admission letters had arrived in her previous life drew near, Tom accompanied Lily to the provincial capital to buy some new clothes. Inside the department store, however, they ran into 2 familiar figures coming right toward them. David's gaze fell on Lily's pale face, and his brow furrowed slightly. Chloe, looking as though she now had someone backing her up, no longer feared the rural siblings. Her eyes were filled with contempt. But the moment she saw Tom spending money on his sister, she knitted her delicate brows and couldn't hold back. "Lily, as his sister, you're always spending your brother's money. Have you no shame?" Lily sneered inwardly. Ever since Chloe had married into the family, Lily hadn't asked her brother for a single cent. During the hardest times, she had preferred to sell her own blood rather than disturb the peace of their little family. It was only because she knew how much Tom had loved Chloe back then, and she hadn't wanted to put him in a difficult position. Now that Chloe saw David's boundless prospects, she had kicked Tom to the curb to climb the social ladder, yet she still had the nerve to lecture them. Just then, Tom was having Lily try on a Shanghai brand watch, saying it would be useful when she went to the capital. She really liked it. Just as Tom was taking out the money and industrial coupons to buy it, a thick stack of cash was suddenly slammed down on the counter. "I'll pay 30 more. Wrap this watch up for me. I'm giving it to my fiancé," David declared grandly to Chloe, though his eyes darted coldly toward Lily. The sales clerk froze for a moment. Lily, however, asked calmly, "Everything is first come, first served, isn't it?" Assuming she was jealous, David smirked. "Exactly. Chloe was the one who came first. A latecomer like you doesn't deserve it. I'll pay 50 more. Wrap it up." After that, no matter what Lily and Tom set their sights on, David would step in and pay extra to snatch it up first. Surrounded by the envious gazes of everyone in the mall, Chloe smiled as brightly as a flower. Carrying bags of all sizes, she cast a pitiful look toward Lily and Tom. "David will pass the college entrance exam again next year, and take me to the capital to live a good life you couldn't even imagine," Chloe boasted. "You two siblings will just have to suffer your whole lives, farming and selling blood. You better save your money. We're just doing this for your own good. Shouldn't you say thank you?" David stared at Lily's reaction, lightly raising his eyebrows. Lily said clearly, "David, I really should thank you. If it hadn't been for wanting to be more worthy of him, if it hadn't been for staying up every night to read and memorize books with him by lamplight, and if it hadn't been to save him time, by traveling dozens of miles to consult teachers, internalizing the problems he didn't understand, and then coming back to explain them to him, she wouldn't have scored so high on the exam, and changed her own destiny through knowledge." David paused, assuming she was just forcing a smile to save face. Looking disdainful, he put his arm around Chloe and walked away. Lily noticed his increasingly deflated pockets had very little money left. She exchanged a glance with her brother and smiled. The next day was the exact date she had received her admission letter in her past life. That night, she had a rare nightmare of the final, agonizing scenes from her previous life and woke up drenched in cold sweat. Just then, the sound of firecrackers echoed from outside the window, and David's triumphant laughter drifted in. "To be able to get into the top university, there is one person I need to thank the most. If it hadn't been for Chloe quietly supporting me all along, I never would have been able to persevere." Listening to his affectionate confession, Chloe's eyes shimmered with tears. Lily stood outside the large canopy where David was throwing a lavish banquet, frowning slightly. The first to notice her was Chloe. She tucked her hair behind her ear, showing off the new watch on her wrist, and offered a magnanimous, forgiving smile. "Lily, you're here. Hurry and sit down. I specifically asked David to save a seat for you." David also cast a spirited glance her way, as if he had fully expected her to show up. With a mocking look in his eyes, he continued, "And the second person I want to thank is you, Lily." "Lily," David said, "if you hadn't thrown yourself at me without any official status, and then heartlessly broken up with me before the college entrance exam results came out, I never would have had the chance to connect with Chloe." Many people at the banquet looked awkward. Who didn't know that Chloe was Lily's former sister-in-law? But Lily only cared about one thing David had just mentioned. "Are you saying the scores are already out?" she asked. The village party secretary, sitting at one of the tables, stood up beaming with joy and took the opportunity to announce, "David, our educated youth, scored the highest in the entire city this time. He has truly brought great honor to our county." Chloe looked at David with sheer adoration. His actual score is a full 30 points higher than what he originally estimated. "Wow, that high? It seems David was just being too modest back then," the crowd murmured. Amidst the chorus of gasps and envious praise, David waved his hand nonchalantly. "I didn't expect to perform exceptionally well myself." Lily let out a laugh. "Of course you didn't expect it, David," she thought. He frowned, then suddenly let out a mocking scoff. "Lily, I told you long ago not to regret it. Now you're intentionally running over here to get my attention. Are you trying to win me back?" David's tone was full of contempt as he pulled a bashful Chloe into his arms. "I forgot to tell you. Today's banquet isn't just to thank the villagers for my college acceptance. It's also my wedding banquet with Chloe. After she married into your family, you and your brother constantly beat and bullied her. Even after the divorce, you didn't let her go, branding her with a bad reputation. She might not hold a grudge against you two siblings and even wanted to invite you to the banquet, but I'm not that generous." With that said, David violently kicked over the chair right in front of Lily. The banquet instantly erupted into gossip. "Tsk, Tesk, those two siblings really lost everything. They deserve it. Who told her to be so short-sighted? A cheap good who throws herself at a man is just stupid." Tears of deep emotion and happiness shimmered in Chloe's eyes. She buried her face against David's chest, but secretly flashed a smug smirk at Lily. Right at that moment, their teacher, accompanied by the city leaders, came jogging over excitedly. The admission letter from the top university has arrived. This is the only admission quota for the entire city. It brings us so much glory. Becoming the center of attention, David's face flushed red with pride. Trying his best to suppress his excitement, he reached out his hands to receive it. This actually isn't just my honor alone. His voice abruptly faltered. He watched as the teacher, holding the unopened admission letter, hurried right past his outstretched hands and handed it directly to Lily. David watched helplessly as Lily took the admission letter. He was stunned for a moment, but quickly furrowed his brows and declared to the teacher and leaders, "I have already broken up with Lily. We never even got a marriage license. I've already paid back everything I owed her family. She doesn't deserve to touch my admission letter. I have nothing to do with her family anymore." The teacher looked at him in shock, and then looked at Lily. "David, but this admission letter is..." Before Lily could even open the envelope, Chloe snatched it right out of her hands. She spoke with righteous indignation to the leaders. Leaders, although David dated her, it was only because Lily threatened him by selling her blood. David was too soft-hearted and couldn't bear to watch a young girl degrade herself like that, so he was forced to be with her back then. "If you don't believe me, look." Chloe violently yanked Lily's sleeve up, exposing the frightening dark purple needle marks on her arm. Now that she sees David got into the top university, she regrets breaking up too early. She intentionally came here to make a scene while the leaders are here, trying to use threats to win him back. When the crowd saw the needle marks on Lily's arm, they all gasped. "I knew it. How could an educated youth like David ever fall for her? A little village girl trying to tie a man down by selling her blood. Spit! How utterly degrading." The mockery and ridicule in her ears bubbled like boiling oil. The crowd's eyes fell on the dense cluster of scars on her arm. Lily tried desperately to cover them, but her sleeve had already been torn by Chloe. David watched coldly from the sidelines. Even though he knew this was the most humiliating secret in her heart, and the one thing she never wanted to expose to others, his expression showed absolutely no sympathy. The village party secretary, terrified that Lily really was there to cause trouble today, waved his hand, about to order someone to drive her away. Just then, another group of people hurried toward the canopy. It was the director of admissions from the state's top university. The director chuckled heartily. "We heard your village produced a top scholar, so we came to deliver the scholarship money." The stack of brand new cash in his hand was quite thick. Chloe's eyes filled with pleasant surprise, but in the next second, she looked at David with worry. The two of them subtly cast their gazes towards someone sitting in the corner of the banquet. That person was the middleman for buying and selling college admission spots on the black market. David himself hadn't expected his score to be so high. He couldn't keep a low profile even if he wanted to, let alone with the university's admissions director showing up in person. He comforted Chloe in a low voice. "It doesn't matter. Don't we have the scholarship money now? At worst, we'll use this cash to pay him back and just not sell the spot." Chloe squeezed his hand in thrilled excitement. David spoke with high spirits. "Chloe, I'll take you to the capital this year." That scholarship money made everyone present red-eyed with envy. "Wow, I never thought you could actually make money from studying and taking exams. This is a tremendous thing," old Lou exclaimed. "Educated youth Davidno, wait, top scholar David, later on, could you give my two boys some pointers? I don't expect them to get into the top university. As long as any college is willing to take them, it would be a blessing from my ancestors' graves." As the eager crowd surrounded David, Lily was pushed to the back. Suddenly, her arm felt a comforting warmth. It was her teacher, Mr. Lin, stepping in to gently cover her arm, his eyes filled with heartache. He knew better than anyone how Lily had managed everything for David over the past year, providing him with the perfect conditions to study in peace. "Lily, what is really going on between you and David? Did you two really break up?" Lily had thought her heart was already like dead wood, incapable of feeling any more emotional ripples, but facing her teacher's concerned gaze in that moment, her eyes stung with sudden tears. "Yes, we broke up." In the center of the crowd, amidst the jubilant congratulations, David handed the thick stack of scholarship cash straight to Chloe without a second thought. Mr. Lin seemed to completely understand the situation, and his gaze slowly darkened. David was glowing with success, immersed in the glory of the moment. Achieving academic success and getting married were life's two greatest joys, and just as he was thinking he would remember this day forever, someone suddenly called his name. David turned his head and saw Mr. Lin leading Lily through the crowd, parting the people to step forward. David's brow furrowed coldly. "Mr. Lin, I appreciate everything you did to teach me, but if you're trying to play the pity card and plead for someone, there's really no need." "David," Mr. Lin interrupted him, his tone serious. Since you have already broken up with Lily, do me a favor and be a decent man. Part with her amicably. On such a good day, don't try to get your hands on Lily's scholarship money. It won't look good if this blows up. Everyone present thought they had misheard. David froze slightly, as if he had just heard the most absurd joke in the world. His face fell. Mr. Lin, what are you talking about? Am I the one making a scene? It's clearly her. Lily is the one shamelessly clinging to me today and refusing to part amicably. He obviously assumed, just like everyone else, that the teacher had simply made a slip of the tongue. Encouraged by Mr. Lin's gaze, Lily stepped forward. Her voice was cold, yet it rang out with undeniable clarity. David, I told you long ago. Of course you couldn't imagine scoring that high, because that first-place score is mine, Lily said clearly. I cut ties when I have to, and I absolutely do not regret it. I'll just consider that year of my youth wasted on a pig. But it's truly a pity. Only today did I realize that you're even worse than that foul pig in the village. You even had the nerve to try and steal my college entrance exam score and admission spot. Not only David, but all the surrounding leaders also revealed expressions of sheer disbelief and shock. David looked around, then let out a laugh through gritted teeth in complete disbelief. Lily, for the sake of the year you served me for free, I won't hand you over to the police for sprouting nonsense and ruining my special day. But if you keep acting crazy, don't blame me for being ruthless. Suddenly, a loud crash came from behind. It was Chloe, who had accidentally knocked over a banquet table. She had already torn open the admission letter, intending to read it out loud in front of everyone, to prove it to David and make Lily completely give up. But the moment she saw the glaring name on the letter, her pupils instantly froze. The wine bottles and dishes on the table crashed to the ground with a clatter. David's brow twitched fiercely. Noticing that Chloe had already opened the envelope, he told her to read it out loud. Chloe, it's okay. You're my fiancé now. Those siblings won't dare bully you anymore. Go ahead and read it boldly. But Chloe's lips trembled. Her face gradually paled, and she looked up at him in a daze. David didn't know what she was dawdling for. Anxious and unable to wait, he snatched the admission letter from her hands. He was just about to open his mouth triumphantly when his face suddenly changed color. What is going on here? He looked at it again and again, even raising his hand to rub his eyes hard. David, what on earth is wrong? The village party secretary asked. He didn't know the full details. Early this morning, upon hearing that the city's top score belonged to their village, he had blindly rushed over to offer his congratulations. Educated youth, David had indeed claimed to have the highest estimated score in the village, so who else could the top scorer be but him? It wasn't until now that the party secretary realized something might have gone terribly wrong. David suddenly raised his head, his gaze shooting straight past the crowd to look directly at Lily. His breathing was erratic as he muttered, "How is this possible? How could this have Lily's name written on it?" His voice was very soft, laced with an unconscious panic, but everyone present heard it clearly. The originally noisy banquet instantly became so quiet you could hear a pin drop. David stared intently at Lily, his mind completely blank. He felt something was wrong. As if realizing something, he suddenly lowered his head and began rubbing the name on the admission letter vigorously, muttering repeatedly to himself. This is impossible. Someone must be intentionally playing tricks. I'm the only top scorer admitted to the state university. I am. Before Lily could even step forward, Tom had already landed a heavy punch on David's face, snatching back the admission letter that David had nearly torn. David fell to the ground in a sorry state, his glasses shattering. Yet, as if he couldn't feel the pain, he scrambled to his feet quickly, pointing in their direction. What kind of trick are you playing? This is my admission letter. Mine. Then, suddenly remembering something, he turned his head to look for the leaders to seek justice. Lily is an illiterate village girl. How could she possibly get into the top university? This is an absolute joke. But the director of admissions stepped forward, looking at him with eyes full of ice. I was just saying that the admitted student was clearly a female. A moment ago, I actually thought the information I received was wrong. But someone tacitly allowed the misunderstanding, the admissions director continued coldly. What? Now that your lie is exposed, you want to shift the blame and question the fairness and standards of our university's admissions? David didn't dare offend the leaders of the admissions office. He swallowed hard and stammered an explanation. I didn't mean that. Covered in cold sweat with the veins on his forehead throbbing, he forced a calm laugh and turned back to look at Lily, who was still being shielded by Tom. Lily, no wonder you insisted on signing up for the college entrance exam with me back then. So you were hiding such malicious intentions all along. We were in the same testing room. You must have found a way to cheat and copy from me, or secretly swapped our exam papers. Yes, that must be it. Lily held down Tom's tightening fist and laughed. David, are you saying that I, the first place scorer, somehow copied from you, someone who scored 30 points lower than me? A moment later, the bystanders caught on and burst into laughter one after another. Exactly. Her score is way higher than yours. How could she copy a lower score? As for his confident claim that she had swapped their exam papers, not only Mr. Lin and the admissions director, but even the city leaders stepped forward, their faces stern. The top scorer is a citywide honor. It's not something you can just casually smear, a city leader said strictly. David, if you truly feel there's been an injustice with your score, we will investigate and give you a fair resolution. But if we find out that you're just spreading rumors and slandering our city's top scorer, you will have to bear the full consequences of your actions. David's knees gave out, and he half collapsed to the ground. In the blink of an eye, all the surrounding gazes of flattering and eager adoration turned into shock, pity, and sarcasm. Chloe had been standing behind him the whole time. Facing the varied gazes of the crowd, she felt overwhelmingly ashamed, her palms drenched in sweat. To this moment, she still couldn't figure out why David's name on the perfectly fine admission letter had turned into Lily's. Just as she braced herself and stepped forward to help David up, the thick stack of cash she was still clutching tightly in her hand was ruthlessly snatched away by Tom. He didn't even give her another glance, leaving her with only a cold back. Chloe's hand hurt from the snatch. In the past, she had never been treated so coldly by Tom, and tears of grievance quickly welled up in her eyes. Seeing David's utterly defeated and devastated look, Mr. Lin shook his head, sighed, and reminded him, David, your score isn't low either. It's okay if you didn't get into the top university. You still have your other two choices. Back then, to be safe, I advised you to fill in other schools for your second and third choices. Where did you apply? Capital Normal University? Jiaotong University? Wuhan University? Several leaders also couldn't bear to see a promising young man become so discouraged, so they chimed in one by one. Those are all top-tier universities as well. David, with your score, getting into any of those shouldn't be a problem. That's right, young man. You just set your sights a bit too high. It's not like you absolutely have to go to the state's top university. Chloe blinked hard, hope rekindling in her heart. She hurriedly helped David up and comforted him softly. That's right, David. We don't necessarily have to go to the top university. Your score is so high, your second and third choice universities will be more than enough for you to showcase your talents. As she spoke, she cast a sidelong glance at Lily from afar and deliberately raised her voice in a fault-finding tone. This way, we won't have to go to the top university and get entangled with a certain shameless person. How unlucky would that be? However, the man she was comforting seemed completely deaf to her words. He kept his head bowed deeply, his eyes hidden by his bangs. Mister, Lin suddenly realized something and raised his eyebrows in shock. David, what exactly did you put down for your other two choices? Mr. Lin asked, his voice filled with dread. You didn't put down the state university for all of them, did you? A constant ringing echoed in David's ears. The voices surrounding him faded in and out, blurring together. Suddenly, as if sensing something, he slowly raised his eyes and met a dark, fierce gaze from someone in the corner of the crowd. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. He knew it was all over. In the blink of an eye, summer turned to autumn. Lily had been at school for 3 months, gradually adapting to the vast, open environment of the capital. Coincidentally, she was studying physics, the exact same major David had pursued in her past life. However, experiencing the top academic institution as a student rather than a nanny made her feel a sense of freedom and expansiveness she had never known before. It felt like this was her true rebirth. Fully immersed in her studies and scientific research, she made friends with classmates who shared her values, and all the events of her past life slowly faded into the distance. On the first day of winter, Tom came to the university to visit her, bringing local specialties from their hometown. Seeing that her complexion had finally improved, he smiled in relief and reminded her to share the treats with her roommates. He didn't forget to mention, after you left, he was cornered by those black market guys every few days, demanding their money back. David really had some nerve. Word is he sold his admission spot in advance for $5,000, guaranteeing he'd get in. Tom glanced at his sister's calm expression. Seeing that she truly didn't care about that man anymore, he changed the subject and didn't elaborate further. After David failed to get in, the black market creditors cornered him that very night. Terrified, he suffered a severe beating that left him with a broken arm. Later, he had to beg Chloe to sell off the expensive watch and high-end gifts he had given her to pay back part of the debt and save his life. Even the money he had spent on the lavish canopy and banquet was all on credit. Once he failed, he had thoroughly become a stray dog, in debt everywhere and reviled by everyone. But even so, Chloe didn't leave him. The two of them hid away in disgrace until the storm blew over, then returned to the educated youth's courtyard to live together. Perhaps she still held out hope for his future. After all, David had made up his mind to study for another year. When Lily saw her brother off at the train station, he smiled and told her, "After the new year, I'm going to sort out the house and land back home, and then I'll come out here to make a living and learn from you. I saw how hard you studied late into the night back then, and I really admire it." Lily smiled back. "That's great. From now on, we siblings will have each other to rely on out here. Tom, I believe in you." Tom suddenly raised his hand and patted her head affectionately. "I have always been your rock. That was true in the past, and it will never change in the future." His gaze swept over the slightly faded scars on her arm. He seemed to have a lot to say, but ultimately only let out a guilty, low sigh. "Lily, don't ever be foolish again." Her nose stung. She knew how terrible he felt. She had intentionally hidden the fact that she had sold her blood for David for a whole year, and her brother hadn't known. Fighting back the lump in her throat, she smiled brightly. "Tom, you too. Neither of us is allowed to be foolish anymore." During the winter break that year, Lily took the train home for the holidays, using the time to help her brother pack up the house so he would be ready to head to the capital in the spring. Along the way, any neighbors or villagers who recognized her approached her with warm enthusiasm. "Oh my, Lily, you've grown into such a beautiful young woman. I almost didn't recognize you in those stylish clothes." "Of course not. Lily is a college student now. And you're the only college student from our village to get into the state's top university." When I told the people in the neighboring village, they were so incredibly envious, one villager said. "Lily, when you find yourself a good, upstanding young man in the capital, don't forget to bring him back to the village for all of us to see." The villagers were overwhelmingly enthusiastic. Lily smiled and agreed to each of them as she finally made her way back home. As she passed by the educated youth's courtyard, a familiar figure unexpectedly caught the corner of her eye. Chloe didn't see her. She was sporting a prominent pregnant belly, struggling with great difficulty to bend down and pick winter vegetables from the field. She was pregnant. Her belly looked to be about 4 or 5 months along. The beautiful, long hair she had cherished the most back when she was Lily's sister-in-law had been cut short. She was wearing a patched gray, padded jacket, and the hands picking the vegetables were covered in red, swollen chilblains. Lily quickly withdrew her gaze and walked right past her in silence. During the few short days since she had returned to the village, people coming to her house to offer warm greetings and try to get close to them had practically worn out the threshold. Tom had portioned out the pork for the new year early on, and it was now stewing fragrantly in the pot. He sighed helplessly. "Lily, you have no idea. When they heard you were coming back for the new year a while ago, the matchmakers who wanted to introduce you to young, talented men went absolutely crazy. Luckily, you have a reliable brother who blocked them all for you." Lily asked him, "What about you, Tom? Are you still looking?" Tom froze for a moment, then gave a faint smile. "You don't think I'm still pining after her, do you?" He lightly tapped Lily on the head with the rice ladle and busied himself with lifting the lid off the pot. "I don't have the mind for that. Let's not talk about this right now. You and I just need to focus on making good money. Everything else can wait." After dinner, Lily went out for a walk. She hadn't gone far when someone rushing toward her with his head down nearly bumped into her. He was holding a book. When he looked up, his gloomy, silent face stiffened. In just half a year, David seemed to have aged significantly. His hair and stubble were messy, and the front of his jacket was filthy. The spirited, triumphant air of the past was entirely gone. Lily wasn't surprised in the slightest. She knew better than anyone just how hard he was to serve during the days of preparing to retake the exams. It was just that now, there was no one left to silently manage all the trivial matters for him, providing him with the perfect conditions to study without a single distraction. Oh, he still had Chloe, but with her being heavily pregnant and not knowing how to cook or tend a fire, she probably couldn't even take care of herself. Lily calmly averted her gaze and turned to leave. "Lily, I really admire you," David suddenly spoke, his eyes full of dark, brooding anger. "You knew all along back then that your estimated score was higher than mine, yet you watched me blindly apply to the top university without saying a word. You set me up on purpose." Recalling the painful memories of that day, his chest heaved and he gritted his teeth. "What exactly did I do to wrong you? Why couldn't you just part with me amicably? Why did you have to ruin me like this?" The final scene of her previous life suddenly flashed through Lily's mind. She had asked him the exact same question. "David, what exactly did I do to wrong you?" But she hadn't received an answer before she took her last breath. The ferocious face deep in her memory overlapped with the wretched, gloomy face of the man standing before her. Lily parted her lips and shook her head. "That isn't important. What is important is that I didn't give up my bright future for you." That night, David might have chased after her for a few steps from afar, shouting some ruthless vow about how he would definitely get into the top university after retaking the exam this time. Lily didn't hear it clearly, nor did she care. After spring arrived, her brother Tom finally came to the capital. But soon, he followed the tide of the Great Migration and headed to a booming southern city. Not long after, he wrote a letter saying he had partnered up with some friends to start a small business. A year of study passed quick. During the summer vacation of her second year at the top university, Lily was invited back to her hometown by Mr. Lin to give an experience-sharing speech to the new batch of exam candidates. Seeing how poised and graceful she had become, Mr. Lin was very gratified. However, when he looked at the bright red posters announcing this year's college acceptances on the wall, he sighed. David failed the exam again this year. His score isn't even worth mentioning, Mr. Lin said. Perhaps Chloe running away with the child a month before the exam was too great a blow to him. Before she left, Mr. Lin also told Lily that David's score this year would have been enough to get him into a provincial teacher's college, but he had stubbornly filled all his choices with the top university. Seeing him like this, he probably wanted to continue retaking it for a third year, and Mr. Lin simply couldn't persuade him otherwise. 3 years later, Lily graduated from college and chose to pursue her master's degree at the same top university. Her advisor was a leading authority in the field nationwide and thought very highly of her. On the day of her graduation ceremony, she took off her graduation gown and was picked up by her brother and sister-in-law to attend their baby's 1-month milestone banquet. Tom was very hardworking. By his second year in the South, his business was booming. This year, he had even moved to the capital and, upon Lily's advice, bought several traditional courtyard houses. He and his new wife had met on a train the year before last. The new sister-in-law was also a rural girl who had taken the train south to find work. She had accidentally fallen asleep and had her luggage stolen. Her face was covered in tear stains, yet she bit her lip, pretending not to cry. Tom had nonchalantly lent her $50 for living expenses and coincidentally helped introduce her to a job that was short-handed. The following year, they got married in the southern city. Her niece's 1-month banquet was very festive and grand, and they had even invited some acquaintances from their hometown. Mr. Lin had traveled all the way to the capital to attend Lily's graduation ceremony and also came to the banquet. He was keeping her sister-in-law company, chuckling as he teased the chubby, pink little niece. It wasn't until after dinner that he lowered his voice. "Do you still remember David?" Lily was surprised he would ask that. How could she not remember? Mr. Lin's eyes were filled with sorrow. He got into a vocational college last year. He had finally accepted his fate and planned to go to school. I was actually quite happy for him. But the night before he was supposed to leave, Chloe, who had run away for several years, came back with the child. She demanded a large sum of child support from him, threatening that if he didn't pay, she would go to the college and report him for trying to secretly sell his admission spot on the black market back then, ensuring he wouldn't be able to attend school. The two of them started arguing. No one knows who made the first move. By the time they were discovered early the next morning, both of them were covered in stab wounds, their blood completely drained. Mr. Lin's eyes looked weathered. With a personality like his, it's a good thing you broke it off with him back then, Lily. It's just a pity for that child. After hearing this, Lily remained silent for a long time. Without her in this life, she could predict that David's future and destiny wouldn't be as smooth, but ending up with a result like this could be considered karma an eye for an eye. Mr. Lin didn't hear her mutter clearly. "Lily, what did you say?" Lily shook her head, hugged her little niece, and smiled. "Nothing. Oh, by the way, Mr. Lin, I'm still donating a batch of textbooks, stationery, and reference books to our village this year. I'll have to trouble you to distribute them to the students after you go back." Outside the window, the warm summer sun was shining brightly. From here on out, her life stepped onto a broad and smooth path.
What a satisfying ending! Lily proved the best revenge isn't drama. It's quietly leveling up your life. Thoughts on her move?